Hello and welcome back to part 5 of our Rust for Beginner series. In this video, we will be taking a look at how to write robust code in Rust by carrying out proper error handling. Okay, so we have three main topics to talk about. First is panic, then we have result and option, and finally propagating errors. Panic is a synonym for errors in Rust. Now there are two ways to cause panic in Rust. First is by doing something that is not allowed, something like accessing array past its endpoint. The other one is by explicitly calling panic macro. Now if we run this program, we get an error, and this is caused by the panic that we placed in the throw error function. At the top we can see the message that we passed in the panic, and after that we have a stack backtrace. Now the first two elements in stack backtrace are there for every error caused by panic. So first we have begin panic handler, and then we have panic format. But after that we can see that we have our function throw error, in which we have called the panic, and then we have the main function. So all this information in stack backtrace can allow us to pinpoint where the errors are and what is causing this panic. Now by default, when a panic occurs, the program starts unwinding, which means that Rust cleans up the stack and all the data. But this is a lot of work, and if we don't want Rust to do all this work and abort without cleaning up the stack, then we can simply go to our cargo.toml file and add panic abort in it. Now we need to set the profile for which we are setting the panic abort. In this case, I'll be doing it for release build, but you can do this for basically every profile. Result and option are the two enums that help us carry out error handling in Rust. I have talked about option a little bit, but we'll talk more in this video. Okay, so result is just an enum where we have two possible values. First is okay, where there is no error, and the second one is an error. Option is also very similar, but in this we have either some, which is that some value exists, or we have none, which is that there is no value. Now let's see a function that has result as a return type used in a program. So in this program, let's open up a file. Now you can see my IntelliSense is recommending that the return type for this file is result. Now since it's an enum, we can use a match statement to check whether the value within the result is an OK or an error. So let's do a print line in OK, and let's just print the length of the file. Now I am getting an error here. This is simply because I haven't created any file called text.txt. So let's create a new file and give it some text. And even this error is not crashing our program, as we have handled that in match. So it's just printing whatever the message there was inside the error. And now if we run this, we should get the length of this file. Now as of now, this code doesn't panic even if there is an error. But we can also do something within the error block if we want it to panic for some errors but not for the others. So what we can do is we can simply check the kind of error within the error block, and let's say if it is not found, then it won't throw any error, but if it is anything other than that, then it will. Right now we're not getting any panic. So now let's remove the file and reverse the condition. Okay, so we just used a predefined function that returns a result. Now let's create our own function that does the error handling using the result. So this is the code we had a moment ago. So now let's convert this throw error into a function which returns a result and helps in error handling. So first off, let's create a logic for errors. So I am adding rand to create random numbers, and if the number is even, we'll throw an error, and if it is odd, then we won't throw any error, we just return the number. So if we don't use a result, our program should look something like this. We are not returning anything. For this program, we should return i32 in this function. But let's do it with result. Now, if we do it with result, we'll do result i32, which is what we want to return, and then we'll do error. It is not necessary to return an error. We can return anything in the case of error, but I'll return error in this case. Now we need to wrap our value inside OK, and then we'll return the error within ERR keyword. So we'll do error new and pass on the message that we want to print within the error. And the rest is same as we did earlier. We'll take it into a variable and do a match. Okay, so we had a random number 37, so we don't get any error. And now we are getting an error. Let's also print the number within the errors to see what number was generated. So we got 60 and we have an error for that. Now we can replace this result with option as well. Logic remains the same. The only difference is we remove the error portion, because in option either we have a value or we have a none. Next, instead of wrapping our return within an OK, we wrap it into a sum. And finally, we can simply return none instead of returning an error, which we were doing for result. Since option has sum and none, we will have to change the same thing in our match statement as well. We'll do sum, and then for every other case, we'll just put an underscore. We can also do none, or we can do underscore. So we are getting numbers for odd numbers, and we got no number for an even number. Now we can reduce all this match statement using the unwrap or expect functions, which are a part of result and option. So I can simply remove this entire match code, and at the end of this open, I can do an unwrap. So this is same as the match statement. The only difference is if we get a panic, we don't handle that. At least not with the default unwrap. Now, since we don't have this test.txt file, we are getting an error.
We can handle such errors using unwrap or, but it will be difficult to show in this one, so let me take a different example.
Okay, so back to the other code. Here, instead of doing an unwrap, we'll do unwrap or. And now within the function, we can pass a default value. Now I could have used this in the last program as well. The only difference is there I would have to give a file within the unwrap or, which is a bit difficult. So that's why I took this example to show you how to use unwrap or, because in this one we only have to do a i32. Now this also works with option, so I can replace the result in our throw error function with an option, and the unwrap or will still work. Now what happens here is that either we get a proper value from the throw error function or we get an error. Whenever we get an error, the default value is given to the variable. Now when we use option, we also have some other functions like is sum, is none, which can help in error handling, but we can generally just use unwrap or either expect. Now let's see what is expect. Now in expect, we just pass what we want to print if there is an error. So in this case, I'll say new error message for an example. Now, if there is no error, we just get the number which we wanted. Now, I'm not printing the number, so it's not giving anything. But if we get an error, we should get a panic. Now, in this case, it must have been an even number, so we are getting a panic. And now you can see that the message that we passed in expect, and then we have the other message which was in the error message. Now, propagating error is a concept that comes into play when we have a chain of functions with same return type, whether it be a result or an option. Then instead of using unwrap within the functions, we can use the question mark operator. Now, this does unwrap the value from the result or option. But if there is an error, instead of throwing a panic, it just propagates the error to the calling function. Let's see this in action. So this is the code for throw error. We'll create another function called add5 with the same return type as throw error. Now this add5 is calling the throw error function, and at the end I'll use this question mark operator. Now you can see that the value is being unwrapped as the IntelliSense is showing I32 for A. Now if an error is returned by the throw error function, the error is propagated to add5 and wherever the add5 is being called. Now the same logic applies to option as well. We can replace result with option. In our res variable, we can do some proper error handling by using a match statement or something like or unwrap or we can just unwrap the value and print that. Now if I run this program, I should get an error if it generates an even number. But I could have handled that error easily by using an unwrap or a match statement where I was calling the add5 function. And this covers all the topics within error handling in Rust. I hope this was a useful video. Please give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.